you get to the end of the week and you are exhausted from all of the masking, the code switching, the questioning if you're overreacting to someone's comment about your body or your hair, this might be a very specific type of burnout you're experiencing called the identity tax burnout. In this video, I'm going to give you some really concrete strategies that you can use right away to start to reclaim your energy, as well as two somatic practices that can help to regulate the nervous system and soften from all of the armoring you have to do during the week. My name is Rachel. I am a somatic therapist and coach. And the identity tax burnout comes from my burnout clarity framework, which has 6 distinct types of burnout. You might be experiencing one, you might be experiencing more than one of these types of burnout, but they give you an understanding of kind of the forces that are impacting you so you know what you can do to start to reclaim your energy. I'm going to drop a link to a free quiz you can take if you want to see which type or types you might be experiencing.
So we'll just
And
take a brief minute to talk about what exactly identity tax burnout is. And this is often just when you are having to navigate either overt or more subtle forms of discrimination or oppression in the workplace. So this is if you're dealing with racism, sexism, ableism, transphobia at work. There is just this level of being kind of armored and on all the time you have to do in that type of environment that can really easily lead to burnout because your nervous system is activated and you are just kind of always on edge, always trying to navigate other people in order to stay safe, keep your job, do what you need to do. So some signs to look out for are one is just that you don't feel comfortable being yourself. You have to code switch or mask or just feel like there is a judgment or people are making assumptions that are based in stereotypes, or there's the little side comment or the dismissal of your ideas. Like all of these ways that subtly show people around you believe that they are better than you based on these identity characteristics. And so when that is happening, your body is registering that as an emotional threat. And then there's going to be things you do because of that. So oftentimes that means that you might feel really responsible for the people around you's feelings, especially if they're in a position of power or even just like identity wise, they have more power in society. There's going to be a way you are trying to navigate that, which might mean that you do some appeasing, making sure they're okay, or people pleasing, like you're making sure that they are okay so they don't take things out on you. And it might also require a certain level of educating people about your identity, your experience, what that means in the world, which is also just a really emotionally exhausting experience when you were already experiencing the impacts of oppression. And this is often, you're going to see this in organizations where maybe there's diversity in terms of who works there, but less diversity in leadership. I think when there's more diversity in leadership, more voices in leadership, I think that's a stronger sign that this might happen less. But that's not always going to be true. And then just thinking about the current time we're in, 2026, when, at least in the United States, a lot of the diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives have been rolled back, and there is just a normalization of racist, sexist, transphobic ideology that it has had a resurgence and like been really fueled recently. So this seems like it also is probably creating more tension and putting people more on edge when you have to go to work and navigate these different things, when people may feel a little more emboldened to say that thing out loud, even if before it was really
subtle. It might be a little more overt now. And I think a big thing to watch out for, just in terms of your personal experience in this type of environment, is you start to question your own experience. Like, oh, am I being too sensitive? Maybe they didn't really mean it that way. Or maybe it wasn't about my gender, or maybe it wasn't about my race. Maybe they're just ignorant. They don't know. But if it's a pattern, or if there's like a feeling in your body, in your gut, that says that didn't sit right, I think you need to trust that. But it can be hard when you have to stay safe, you have to keep your job, you have to navigate the system. So there's just a lot of mental energy, mental and emotional energy that you're putting out when you're dealing with this type of burnout in the workplace, because it is just a constant threat response in your body that can be really hard to shut off when you get off of work, to relax. And so, in the somatic practices we're doing at the end of the video, I really want to give you practices to soften, to relax, because sometimes the reality is at work you can't do that. Like, I wish we lived in a perfect world and you could just do a few things and then everything would be fine at work. But that's not the world we live in. These forces are in the world, and sometimes part of wellness and taking care of yourself is being able to protect yourself against them when you need to, but then being able to shut off and be soft sometimes. Okay, so we're going to go into 4 strategies of what you can do if you're navigating the identity tax burnout. And these are simple strategies, but they do take work. They do take for like time for you to really implement them, practice them, for them to be effective. But the first one is really to trust your gut. So we kind of touched on this earlier in the video, but I think it's really important to start to trust if your body is telling you something isn't right. Trust that there might be something happening that is unjust, that is unfair. And I want to be really clear that that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. So sometimes we will push down that gut feeling because we worry if there's something in our body, if our body's telling us something, that means there's something wrong with you. And I just want to be really clear. Oftentimes, connecting to that gut feeling is what keeps you safe, gives you choice in how you react to what's happening, and doesn't just leave you in this cycle of appeasement. So, just making sure the other person is okay, and then looking back later and being like, why did I say that? Why didn't I stand up for myself? How did I just sit there and smile? Like, all of these things that we do later on are often because there is a disconnect that happens in the moment. And sometimes you need that. It's a survival response. It is adaptive. But part of this practice to overcoming burnout is learning to connect and trust your body and your gut instincts when something feels not right, when that thing someone said, it just didn't hit right. Trust that. And when you're doing that, you're learning to trust yourself, so you are less impacted by these racist, sexist, ableist, transphobic beliefs that are out in the world. You don't let them get in to your body, into your mind. The next strategy is zooming out. So often it can be helpful to zoom out, to remember that a lot of these larger forces really have nothing to do with you.
people may have these racist, sexist, ableist beliefs that are rooted in delusion. They are rooted in these larger systems that are meant to keep certain people in power, to hoard resources for certain people, and keep the rest of us kind of at their whims and at their mercy. It's not going to be always this inherent ill intent for everyone, but the larger systems and structures were built with that in mind. And so I think it's really important to remember who benefits from the beliefs that certain people are better, more worthy, more intelligent, more competent. The list can go on. None of that is rooted in truth. And so I think it's really important to remember that these systems, these other people that hold these beliefs, don't get to define you and your worth. And often it is people's own insecurities, own sense of shame that they're projecting out onto other people. So people who feel good, self-assured, confident in themselves do not have to put other people down to feel good about themselves. So when this type of thing is happening at work, I know it's more complicated when there's actual power dynamics at play. If people have control of your job, if people have control of resources, like that is all real. And you have to navigate that in order to survive. And you don't have to let their beliefs about you define who you are or your value, your worth, your competence. And so just zooming out to see that actually all of these systems, these racist, sexist, ableist, transphobic beliefs are not good for anyone, really. If someone has to work so hard to prove that they are worthy of power, of care, of love by putting other people down, like that is sad. That person is sad. And we don't want them in power. And if they're in power, they have real reality that they can be destructive. But when you zoom out, you can see that these things are not really about you. They are all these larger forces at play. And then your work is to how to come back to yourself, your own experience, to bolster yourself, to be able to navigate them, to not be so like overcome by the forces because they're powerful. So the work is really to kind of zoom out, see what that is, see that it's something much larger than yourself, and then remember that your work is to come back to yourself, finding your own sense of dignity, power, or organizing with other people for collective power. And then the next strategy is around finding your people. This could be at work, this could be outside of work, but how can you find the people that you know have your back, that maybe you can take the mask off with for a little bit of the time, or just people who you can relate to, who have similar identities or similar experiences, or just people that you know, even if you're different from each other, will listen to you, believe you, validate your experience. Because the reality is, if you are experiencing this, I guarantee you, you are not the only person experiencing it. And the more you can find those other people that also experience it or have experienced it, you can start to, one, realize it's not just you. It can help to bolster you in really believing what's happening is happening. And there can be some collective organizing and power building that happens the more people you have together to push back against this. And then the final strategy is really, how do you find places to be soft? How do you find spaces? This doesn't have to be at work, it can be outside of work, but where you don't have to put the armor on, put the mask on, pretend all day. That takes a lot of energy. And again, sometimes that might be necessary. Like that is a survival strategy. It is very adaptive. And sometimes you need to do it. But then it's even more important that you have time to rest, to let your body rest, because all of that stress just drains your energy. It can lead to health problems. It can lead to different issues later on if you don't have time to like rest, relax, let your body like chill. If you're always on, it is just not good for the nervous system, not good for the body, and makes it harder to keep going back to work if you're not giving yourself time to, recharge your battery where you can be yourself, where you can be soft. And I want you to have spaces, people. Sometimes this isn't even like a physical space, it could be a practice, but sometimes there's just people that are that space. The people that you can just totally let go, be yourself, let your guard down. And I think those people are the people you want to be spending more time with. So just thinking in terms of your energy, it's like, how do you really know that if this is the environment you're working in, if you can't leave, that you need like a lot of space to be soft and relax and rest and be with people who are affirming of who you are, finding people with shared identity, shared experience to help you to bolster against these larger forces. I'm going to teach you two somatic practices in this video. The first one is a pretty simple, soothing self-touch practice that you can kind of do anywhere. So this is something you could do throughout the workday if you want to. I'm also going to teach you a guided relaxation practice. And this one is perfect like for after work or just a way of releasing the tension from your body, from all the armoring up and masking you'll have to do at work. All right, this first practice I'm going to lead you through is a soothing self-touch practice. So if you want, you can find a comfortable seated position. You can do this lying down too. We're just going to start by bringing our hands together, rubbing the hands together, and building some heat through the hands. And as you're building that heat, just feeling your body in contact with whatever you're seated or lying on. And then when you have that heat built, just bring one hand to your heart, the other hand on top of that. I'm just taking a couple breaths here. You can have your eyes closed or a soft focus. Try to breathe deeply into your belly as you feel the warmth from your hands on your heart. And then just take a minute to I'm going to scan through your body. Notice any places where there might be tension or pain. We're gonna bring our hands back together again, rubbing your hands together, building that heat. And almost like you're infusing your hands with this sense of warmth and caring. And then you could choose one place in your body where there might be tension or pain, or a place you just want to give a little extra attention. Just bringing your hands there, feeling the warmth transferring from your hand, and with it, that care. Trying to keep your breath really deep and even. Feeling that care from your hands into your body. We'll do this one more time. So again, bringing some warmth into the hands. And you could do the same place or maybe a different place in your body. Needs a little TLC. So when that heat is built, you're choosing a different spot this time. Feeling the heat, and the warm presence of the hands on your body. Just taking a couple deep breaths there. And see if that touch can help the body to relax a little. I'm not trying to change your experience. Just allowing that warmth, that presence to help any tension release a little. And then as you're ready, you can release your hands down. Just take a moment to notice how you're feeling. And it's a really simple practice. The steps are just to tune in. So noticing where you're feeling tension or sensation. And then using the heat of your hands, the presence you're putting in, your loving, caring presence in your hands to bring that to your body. And this is something you could do anytime. If you have like a little break, it can be a nice way just to connect back to your experience, to help release a little tension. So it's great for after a hard meeting or a hard interaction. You could do that for even just 30 seconds. Might help to release some of the tension that all of the stuff you have to deal with brings into your body. All right, the next practice we're going to do is a guided relaxation practice. So I brought some props to show you different ways you can set up to do this, but you could also just lie in bed, you could be seated somewhere. But if you want to create like a really supportive little space for your body, I have this bolster. You can use a pillow if you don't have a bolster at home. I have a blanket for under my head. You would also use a towel, and I have a blanket I'm going to cover myself with. So this is just one option if you want to lie on the ground for this one. Sometimes I think it can be really helpful to lie on the ground. You're like connected to gravity. Your body is able to really relax into this surface that allows yourself to just kind of like be really grounded in a different way.
I also love a bed or a chair or a couch. So it's really up to you. And if you want to try kind of this setup, you could even do this in bed. I'm gonna have something under my head. You don't want a huge pillow so your head's way up, but just a little tuck of the chin helps to turn on these baroreceptors in the body that help you to relax. And then this pillow or bolster is going to go under my knees, which just helps to relax through the legs, the lower back, letting your body to do less work lying down. And then the last blanket goes on top. So when there's something pressing on our body, that also signals the body to relax. So just finding your comfortable position. And you want to feel like you can really rest wherever you are. So the whole point of our practice is to let your body stop working. And sometimes that might be easier than other times. But just finding a comfortable position, letting your eyes close or just a gentle gaze, either up towards the ceiling or down towards your nose. And then taking a moment to just rest into gravity. Feeling your body kind of sinking into the force of gravity. Notice if there's parts of your body that are lifting you up still, and see if you can just notice that you're not trying to force anything. And then taking a couple deep breaths into the belly. And then we're going to do a systematic relaxation of the body, starting with the feet. So relaxing through all 10 toes, bringing your awareness there. And then relaxing through the soles of the feet, the top of the feet, the ankles, relaxing the calves and shins, relaxing the knees, the thighs, relaxing the hips and pelvis. Relaxing the belly, the sides of the waist, the lower back. Relaxing through the chest, the upper back, the shoulders. Relaxing through the upper arms, elbows, forearms. Relaxing the wrist, the palm of the hand, the back of the hand, all of your fingers. And then relaxing through the shoulders, the neck, relaxing the jaw,
Maybe even finding a little space between your upper and lower jaw. Relaxing the corners of the mouth, the corners of the nose, the corners of the eyes. Relaxing the space between your eyebrows, your forehead, your scalp. And then just take a moment to return to your feet, scanning through the body at your own pace, relaxing what you can relax, and allowing what can't be relaxed to just be. And then when you get back down to your toes, just noticing the connection of your body to gravity. Did anything shift in how connected you are from where we started? And take a couple breaths into the belly. And on the exhale, see if you can just invite any stress or tension left in your body to just melt through the body like gravity is just gently pulling it out of your body. And then as you're ready, letting that practice go. Just taking a moment to notice how you're feeling now. Be the state of your mind, the quality of your breath. And then as you're ready, you can do a little wiggle, the fingers, the toes, find some movement, a little stretch, whatever feels good. And then you can just take your time, roll over to one side, get up however you want to get up. And I hope you're feeling a little more relaxed than when we started the practice. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a few tips, strategies, practices to help you feel like you can be a little soft, even in a world where you have to armor most of the time. I'm going to drop the link to the free burnout assessment in the video if you want to check that out. I'm also going to put my burnout clarity playlist, and that has videos for each of the different types of burnout as well as some somatic practice videos. I'll also link down there specifically a somatic practices for burnout video if you want some more practices to help regulate your nervous system to recover from burnout. And thank you for coming to my channel, the place where you can slow down and tune in. And I'll see you in the next one.